Okay, cool. All right, so we just left off. So he kicks me out in the same conversation. I'm saying, hey, I want to take some time to figure my life out, which is exactly what he's always wanted, because I was a little bit rebellious, more than a little bit, but at the same time, he was kind of authoritarian, which doesn't work with autists. Ask any autist. So, freshly kicked out, I end up living in a basement with a guy I lost a bar fight to. That as I'm laying there bleeding, like my only first and last bar fight, as I'm laying there bleeding, I'm like, hey, can you teach me that? And I ended up chasing him down, hurting the whole way. And he ends up becoming my Sifu and friend. Well, this was months before I moved out. And yeah, we ended up living in a basement together. And he dealt in Chinese drugs that, and I quote, aren't illegal yet. Not joking. So I lived with a kung fu drug dealer in a basement that flooded on day 2. It was a 2-bedroom. And I eventually moved out on my own, and then I joined the US Marines. That was a story. Holy crap. And I cover it in the book. So I joined the Marines, wash out in phase 2, because I was a liability. My concentration lapsed. I didn't always respond immediately to commands. I wasn't fit to serve, which is why I now direct for a veterans nonprofit. And we'll get to that, because we're doing some pretty incredible stuff right now. But if I can't serve, I can serve those who served us. Anyway, back to after the Marines. Tail tucked between my legs, I go to Arizona, live with my brother, get a little bit of a handout, or a hand up from my uncle. So 3% interest, he pays off my truck so that I can have some breathing room on the insurance side of things. And that's cool. Like, it's really cool. But my brother, who's been basically tortured by my mother's side of the family as a kid, really, really neglected and mistreated, he doesn't like that, apparently, or something. I don't know. Maybe it was his breakup with Shantae. I don't know. But my brother Kevin decided, hey, my buddy already owns, or a friend of a friend, excuse me, already owns 2 extremes, and he's got 2 kids. That's 3 people, 2 extremes. You're going to sell it to me, or you're going to be homeless, because my fuel pump went out. Keep in mind, he later owned Titan Diesel Sports in Arizona. Like, he worked on his 73 Pontiac GTO all the time. He had the 19th fastest racing truck in the United States at one point. I mean, the guy knew how to work on cars, but he wouldn't help me replace the fuel pump. And he basically forced me into an ultimatum as a 19-year-old with no knowledge of law or anything like that. Because if I knew then what I know now, I would have had a field day with that boy. But he ends up basically forcing me into an ultimatum. I lose the first truck I ever bought, and I love that truck so deeply. You have no idea, I love that truck. 2000 Chevrolet S10 LSC extended cab V6 Vortec with Hypertech 3-power programmer, Pioneer, audio everything with the K&N aftermarket air intake. And I forget the sound, the alarm system, but it was super fine-tuned. I loved it. So he sells it. I end up working for my uncle, and then living in one of his places that I thought he owned. Turns out he did, but he sold it. And then I get 2 weeks notice to move out because they're taking over the house. Like, my family is just screwed up. My parents, all of that. So I end up working for Blockbuster Video in Ahwatukee, and I kill it. I didn't lose a single contest. We got our first bonus in 3 or 4 years as a store, and I led the district and the region consistently. And I have the proof of it, email proof. And then things get toxic. I'm one of 7 managers that ended up leaving. I was the only one that wasn't voluntary. She had to hunt to fire me. But Tammy Tynan, we referred to her as the lipstick lizard, but it takes a really special type of managing style to lose 6 managers in the same 30 days. Well, 7 if you count me. So I ended up working for Hollywood Video, and again, I kill it. And I was a last ditch. So another Sean was my district manager. He hires me as a last ditch for the last big box in Arizona. We're talking the corner of University and Rural. And the thing was big. I had like a 40,000 plus movie inventory. And as a movie buff, I watched all of them, or at least as many as I could. Then they filed Chapter 11 a few months in, and I'm just killing it too. I went from 478th over LY, so last year's numbers, 478th in the nation to 9th. And I have that email. I still haven't lost a contest, corporate-wise or otherwise, to this day. So anyway, they filed Chapter 11, and I get down to my last $800 of unemployment. Like, holy crap, nobody's hiring. I'm going to interviews, I'm searching left and right. So I take my last $800 and I'm like, you know what? YOLO. I'm going to believe in myself. So I go to an auction, I buy a pallet of computers and a couple pallets of TVs. I sell the TVs on Craigslist, I sell the computers on Craigslist, flip a profit, and then keep doing it until I teach myself computers from scratch. Plus there was another guy named John who really helped out. He gave me my foundations, and then from there I just ran with it and taught myself computers until I leveraged a couple different competitors against a central supplier for better discounts and deals. That's right. I conglomerated. And I was doing college tutoring. In fact, my first college tutoring student, excuse me. So my first college tutoring student is still one of my two top. Like, no joke, my first and my last college tutoring students over a 10-year span were the best. And so my first one ends up, well, we develop a friendship, but he later hires me because he works for a national company. A company so big that if they went under, we would see a recession. Not joking. And it was fun working for him. But at the same time, there was a manager between him and I because, I mean, I reached him when he was a leasing agent, and then now he's a regional director, which not today he's a national director, but at the time he was regional. There was a manager in between him and I. I was hired to make his department more efficient, which he knew I could do, and I found a way to do it, to save the company at least $120,000 per year just in one office, assuming certain metrics of hiring, like certain hiring practices. So yeah, but the other guy, I mean, he would trigger a panic attack once a week, and he knew he was doing it. How do I know this? Because I was around the corner when he said he wanted to hire somebody else. The guy was in the closet, and pretty much 95% of the office was Mormon, so you don't be that way when you come from that kind of family and background. I'm just saying. And I should know I was baptized in the Mormon church. Even though I am Kojic and have been since 14. Do the math on that one. I was baptized at 13, became Kojic, Church of God in Christ, full gospel Pentecostal at 14 when I met my mentor. And then he became a mentor at 15. Like, I've had a crazy life. So, started my own business, and then I went to Southside Chicago and got into politics or political advising and business consulting. And I've knocked a few things out the park with that one too. Like, my story is just insane. I've met actual drug dealers. I've been an actual player. A former pseudonym, back when I was 20 and stupid, was Date Dr. Sean. And I actually wrote the Date Doctor's Guide series. And that was one word, okay? That was my logic at the time for getting around doctor being a protected word. So, Date Doctor, one word. Of course, people in their logical mind wouldn't associate the blah, blah, blah. I was 20-something. Anywho, life goes on. I grow up. I survived Southside Chicago in -14 with no heat because of a guy that got me out of a bad situation. I met him at the church because when I'm in trouble, I always go back to church. You are cursed with a curse. You better believe I was tithing. Malachi 3:11, if I remember right. But yeah, the guy rented me a loft and then renovated the loft. First 2 months were on good faith. He just said, don't let me down. I was introduced to him by another guy I met at the church. The guy had the loft, the first guy had the loft, and yeah, he got me in, and again, negative 14 degrees with no heat, because the first 2 days we had to wait for the gas to be turned on. And then fast forward to Washington, where I'm basically piloting a program, a tourism program for Uber, and networking my way to the top of Uber, as well as writing a book for the rideshare industry, which was sponsored by T-Mobile. Not joking. They sponsored me with 6 months of a sync-up drive with unlimited data and all of that. You better believe I rocked the heck out of it. I had probably one of the sickest non-Uber Black rides in Seattle. No joke. I had the tablet, I had the tourism factor, I had the candy, I had the Wi-Fi, I had the surround sound, panoramic sunroof. Oh yeah, I was killing it. And I was. But then I made the mistake of trusting family, and a family member did what he usually does and cuts corners and trusts too much of the wrong people, and so on and so forth. I end up losing Lyft, going down to Uber, and because I'm driving Uber to basically pay my rent at this beautiful loft with this beautiful apartment in Washington with a chimney. In fact, I got to spend Christmas around that chimney with the most beautiful woman in the world. So anyway, I end up homeless. First 2 months, I'm struggling, like just trying to make this happen. But I mean, the situation was thus that I couldn't make rent in time, and being as how I do know fair housing laws, they violated, and I don't have an eviction on my record, but it doesn't stop the fact that I ended up living in a hotel, the Ramada Inn, for a couple months. Not joking there. And so I'm, really pushing this Uber pilot program. I need to reach 15 venues signed on to the tourism program. I got 11. And then, because I drove so much and hit so many rides, when you, no matter what you do, you're going to get 1-star rides here and there. Somebody has a bad day or something like that. You don't get there quick enough. There's traffic. You get blamed for it as a driver. Which, by the way, my pseudonym for that time was Rideshare Commando. Which is now Autistic Commando, which is this channel. So if you go back, you can see some of my earlier videos. But yeah, I'm piloting the program, and I get deactivated. It was just a perfect storm of everything hitting me at once. If I had one less thing hit me, I would have pulled through. But it was just the perfect storm. So I end up homeless. In fact, I was even suicidal for a bit. Because I was unstable, I didn't argue with the woman of my dreams going back to home after she attended college, because that's where we met. We met on Tinder, had a 7-hour first date, and it was just walking and talking through Seattle. The next date was 4.5 hours just walking and talking. I mean, she was special. Is. So anywho, I end up not being able to afford the Ramada because I trigger a Uber thing with 1-star rides that no matter what your rating is at the time or what your history is, when you reach that many 1-stars, meaning I was driving, I think I've driven just under 10,000 rides in I think it was a 7 to 8 month period. Crap ton of rides. Crap ton. But I was making bank too. And it floated me through for a bit. But ultimately, I can't afford the Ramada. I get deactivated from Uber because the 1-star rides pile up just through aggregate limit. I mean, it's one of those where you drive 8,000 rides, you're going to hit that limit. And the system's just automatically going to trigger. So wait, there's 500 1-stars or 1,000 1-stars or something like that. They're a bad person. And they turn you off. So I have to live on my mother's couch after that. My best friend helped me out, and he's my brother. I live on my mother's couch, and I later become an actual professional 30-year-old video game tester. No joke. I worked for Xperis Games. The 2 games I helped launch were Crackdown 3 and State of Decay 2. Come here, boy. This way. Nope. This way. Come on. Good boy, good boy. He gets himself tangled. And he's not smart enough to get himself out. Come here, boy. Yeah, he ain't the brightest. But yeah. So, I'm living at home on my mother's couch, and she's depressed. And I'm an easy target. Because I'm beaten, I'm broken, I'm battered. Anywho, toxic situation lasts for years. And I try to start 2 businesses while I was there. She gets in the way of both. She makes them just unbearable and breaks her promise left and right. I was such an afterthought as an autist to my family that she would walk past me because I only had the front closet as my closet. So I'd open it up. There's a nice little screen there, and I would change. Well, 4 times she would walk past me, open the front door. 2 times I saw the neighbor's kids, and I'm pretty sure at least once they saw me in my boxers and tank top. The 4th time I blew up, and all of a sudden I was the bad guy. And this is just an example. Like, I would wake up at 6 a.m., 7 a.m. sometimes to just every light turned on. Like, there was no consideration. There was one time where I wasn't even asked. They moved the cat's litter box 4 feet away from where I slept. Like 3 to 4 feet away from where my head was resting. No consideration whatsoever. And, of course, it just got really bad. But I found a way to engineer myself out of that situation, which is where I'm living right now. All this. That took quite a bit of work, working with the VVA, and of course we had a bad actor at one point too. I mean, I've had a crazy life, and I'm barely touching on it. This is the life that I want to talk about. I want to tell people the story. I want to tell people about the abuse and the realities of being autistic. The realities of your parents yelling at you from 3 feet away and you not being able to hear them. The realities of depression and perception. I want to talk about this stuff. And I'm going to start bringing voice to this. Because my life has been exceptionally hard. I've had some great experiences, make no mistake. I have stories that people wish they had. I have stories that only appear in movies and TV shows. But it doesn't matter if nobody's listening. So I'm going to keep having friends and family and all that reach out to Coin 6 and say, hey, interview this guy. Because that is a necessary first step. If I told you all the stories that I have in this book, just in the book, and the book is like 1/20th of my stories, most of which are all exciting. True story. Like, you have no idea. I really lived because I never really valued my life. So my philosophy for all of my 20s was YOLO. Well, all my teens too. So I'm going to keep trying. If a news station doesn't verify my stories, nobody's going to believe them. Nobody ever has so far, until they saw the proof. Even then, family still doubts some of them. But that's externalization at that point. So yeah, this is me. You know what? If you want to help, call Coin 6 in Portland and tell them to interview me. I'll tell you one heck of a story for an autist. But it's also, like, to verify it fully, I've got some crazy stuff to verify. And I know where it is, where the information is. It's just, if I did it myself, number one, there would be bias because not all of my friendships and business associations ended on a positive note. Happens when you're struggling, plus it happens when you deal with less than savory people. Again, I've met actual drug dealers and drug lords. Small-time drug lord, but yeah. Back of a black Cadillac. Not joking. And yes, there is evidence towards the same effect. So, if you want to help out, call Coin 6 or write them and tell them to interview Sean Hupel. I'll tell you a story. And then I'll tell you how to prevent some of the unnecessary hardships that your autistic children or your autistic family member, coworker is going through. How to recognize certain things and how to respond. The greatest gift you can give an autist is the benefit of the doubt. He'll be right 99% of the time. Take care, y'all.